Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you very much for being here. First of all, thank you, Daniel, for arranging everything and giving us the chance to be here with you. So basically the idea of today was not to come and try and sell you something specific, right? I don't think that makes sense. The idea of today was to try and give you information to help you understand better what Cyprus is all about, what it can offer, right? And why it might make sense for you. So we sat down the speakers and I obviously lost the bet because they chose me to do an intro on what Cyprus has to offer in terms of the lifestyle, but also in terms of business, right? So at any given moment, if something doesn't make sense, please, please, please feel free to stop me and ask questions because things are simple and they should make sense, right? I know that sometimes I might make leaps. My mother says it's because I'm smart, but she's the only one that says it, so I don't think it's true. So whatever doesn't make sense, please stop me, ask questions, or leave it until the end, up to you. You're either not going to be interested or I'm going to be fantastic and you might not have any, but it's just to start at the right point. So briefly about us, Domenica Group, it's a family-owned business. We started in Paphos in 1961. I'm not that old. It was my grandfather, thankfully, because it was me. I don't think we're going to survive 65 years. And we are in the property market. We are real estate developers, and we are a construction company as well. So we build 100% of the projects that we have in the market, which gives a bit more control in the process. It gives more reassurance to the buyers because they only have one throat to choke. I cannot blame the contractor. It's one company doing everything. And we tend to be a bit more flexible and agile in the changing markets, both in terms of what we offer to clients to make changes and make it suit what they really, really want to achieve, and also when the market changes. I'm not going to talk too much about ourselves. We are basically in construction and development. We have our own hotels, and we are also in the energy sector, where we basically offer investments in renewable energy. But today we're going to focus big picture. We're going to start with Cyprus, and we're going to slowly start zooming in. Lifestyle taxation, focus on Paphos, which is the region that we are based and the region that we believe more. Give a couple of examples of projects, why they make sense, how's the idea behind it, if you're an investor, if you're looking something as a holiday home, and close it and leave it to the real pros to continue. So I'm not gonna waste your time with videos. It's basically showing a bit what we do. The important thing that I want you to actually look at is because of the conversation that I had with people, look at the landscape. Paphos is one of those places that offers a very unique blend between feeling that you live somewhere remotely, but actually being in the center of everything. In Cyprus, we measure distances with minutes in the car, not with kilometers or miles. Why? Because everything is nearby. And that actually gives you a lot of time. It saves you time. You can do way more in your day. Obviously, I'm showcasing what we can do, but as I said, what I would suggest for those of you that would be interested after this event, come visit. When you go to a place, right, as a tourist, you see some things. When you go as an investor, you see different things. When you go for a holiday home, different things. So what I would say, if we manage to convince you today that it's worth your while, take some time, come visit and see what we have to offer. So just overview, we have completed about 500 projects. We have about 200 units available for sale. We are building at the moment about 32 projects, or actually a bit more. We're building about 750 units, villas and apartments. We are self-financing all of our projects. We don't have bank loans. We don't have investors' money. So the whole process might feel a bit easier, more comfortable, more flexible. And we hope that you will find that we have something to suit every budget. Now, let's not waste our time with our vision, and let's just tell you like how the story would be. So what you will find is investment opportunities from around 170, 80, 90,000 up all the way up to 2.5 million for one unit. Investments in property, hospitality, and energy, and the flexibility I mentioned about. If I want to speak in like big numbers in ranges, you should assume, you should expect that when you come to invest, you will find things for sale in the range of 3.5 thousand square meters all the way to 4.5, right? In a market that is growing quite rapidly. Bit more on that later. And the other thing that I'm going to leave it to Daniel, we offer a service that closes the cycle for the investor. Passive investment in what sense? In the sense that you come, you invest in something if you're not interested yourself to live. We take care of it, we manage it, you get your net yield, which we'll talk later on. Where Cyprus is, I'm sure all of you know, so I'm not going to waste too much of your time. What do we have to offer in terms of lifestyle, as I said? So we have a very high quality of life. Why? The weather. It's fantastic. A lot of blue flag beaches. It's a very cosmopolitan place. Certain areas, certain cities, they have more than 42% of the people living there being non-Cypriots. And the most important thing, in my humble opinion, is that they don't necessarily come from one single community. And why is that important? Because you don't feel that, oh, there's only one thing. If I come from, say, the UK, I'm okay. If I don't, I'm not. It's way diverse, especially in Paphos, where right now the vast majority of buyers are from Europe, the UK, and Israel, among other places. Why is this diversification important? The market is more stable. Living there feels more comfortable, right? And it's changing the very fabric of our society for the better. In order to be able to keep those people that are coming in, we have to improve. We have to follow their expectations. So we were very lucky with the weather, with the international schools. In Paphos, where we are based, we have one new private school every year in the last year's opening. Why? Because of the demand, and some private universities, international universities as well. So let's go to the numbers. Cyprus right now is considered one of the best, if not the best, jurisdiction in Europe for doing business. What proves that? Our funds, let's say, market was non-existent a few years ago, and right now it's about 30% of our GDP. Why? Because we have things like zero tax on dividends. So you come to Cyprus, you operate a company, and you pay zero tax on dividends. Zero property tax, no inheritance tax, no wealth tax. It means that it's a jurisdiction that you can come, start investing, and not be afraid that there is, let's say, a finish line. Oh, I need to do this, but I also need to know that by this time it needs to, end. It gives you time, it gives you flexibility. And at the same time, a very robust legal system based on common law and a plethora of very, very good professionals. We have Zach with us today, which will prove that. A very, very competitive tax system overall. We are one of the fastest growing economies in Europe with a very low unemployment rate. Actually, let me take a step back. When they decided to change the tax system, because the last reform was this January, they said, okay, we don't want to create a system for companies to come and compete with our own people, right? What we want is to create something new. So they created specific products, if I may call them, like the IP box. What is an IP box? The IP box is a framework that says that if your company can be linked to intellectual property, then you fall into one category which can lead you to pay as low as 2.5% tax. 2.5% corporate tax, zero tax on dividends. Of course, it's not as simple as that. Of course, there are other subcategories. But what was the idea? Let's bring the companies over, because it's not just about the 2.5 or 5 or 10%. It's about the people that are going to move there. They're going to start generating more money to the economy, invest, eat, rent, buy. And in time, what I said earlier, help us improve our society, be more competitive, because Cyprus achieved the target of let's bring people over. The aim right now is to maintain these people, as we will see. So, the permanent residency program, for those of you that are not EU passport holders, and I'm not going to go through into much details because we have a lawyer between us, but long story short, one of the added benefits is if you buy something worth at least 300,000 plus VAT, you can become a permanent resident of Cyprus. And this is for you, the spouse, and all the kids up to the age of 25. If, for example, you want to buy something that is 600,000, 300 plus 300, then it could even be the parents. I'm talking about the grandparents, let's call them, just to understand, right? And again, it could be with one property. Of course, it depends on the size, so it makes sense that people can actually live in it. This is just an added benefit of investing, and I'm just gonna leave it up to here without wasting more time on it. Very briefly on the status of the market. So the Central Bank of Cyprus every 3 months generates a report. The Greek version is 3 months old. The English version is, let's say, 6 months old data. But it's a very, very good source of information if you want to really, really understand the market. What will that tell you? It will tell you that basically the cities of Paphos and Limassol attracted the most foreign buyers. Paphos was #1 in terms of the most foreign buyers in Cyprus, and with the EU, non-EU, buyers. And specifically in the area of Paphos, the highest number of EU. Right now, to be honest with you, we see a lot of flow from Western Europe, countries like Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, and it's all for the same kind of reasons. Cyprus offers safety that they don't have, stability that they feel that they're starting losing, low taxation. They no longer feel that they have to share their income with their governments, and at the same time not get anything back. So because of this flow, we also saw a rapid decrease in the average age of people, meaning more and more and more people are moving there to create new life. And this is fundamentally extremely important for a property market, because net household increase is the most important metric. An investor can come and go. If nobody wants to live in a place, that's a place that you should be scared of. But a place that is built on solid foundations and people come to invest because they want to live, have a holiday home, or invest, that's something that is way, way more difficult to, let's call it, break, especially if all these people come from so many different nationalities. So again, in terms of what you should expect, what you will see, and I know I'm just going to briefly go through it, what you should expect is, because so many people from so many different countries come from outside bringing money, on average, the net capital appreciation, value appreciation of your property is going to be in the range around 6 to 7%. We saw some crazy numbers, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm talking about more than 10% in specific quarters, but we don't feel that's sustainable. We feel that the big range should be something between 5.5% and 7%, which is something that you see very, very, very easily. We were having a conversation with one of you earlier, and we said that typically when you buy off-plan, which is something very, very common in Cyprus because of how much demand exceeds supply, the first buyer to the last buyer might see 20 to 25% difference, just because, one, the first guy is kind of financing the project, and two, because the market is upward trending. So, zooming into Paphos, as I promised, the most popular among foreign buyers, the most diverse mix in real estate buyers. What does that mean? More countries for more reasons. We don't have one dominant foreign, let's say, community there. So it means that people, it's easier for people to mix, it's easier for people to feel at home. The best landscape for me in Cyprus, and why is that important? Because it's basically a never-ending hill for 30, 40 kilometers, which creates what I call affordable sea view. Why? Because there's a lot of plots. And because we controlled very well the maximum height, basically imagine a hill that one builds on top of the other and everybody can actually enjoy the view. The most popular tourist destination by a landslide, we're talking about 42% of the market. We own hotels. We know, and my family owns as well in Ayanapa, and the difference is basically substantial. Basically, we don't have a season anymore. Theoretically, it starts in March and ends in December, but even over the let's call it colder months, you can still at least sustain. And I can tell you, for a hotel to shut off and restart, it's a lot of money. So even that marginal profit, it's good, which basically lead to the highest average daily rate in the hotels and the highest occupancy rate. I will show you later why this is important. okay? And hence, highest returns investment in hospitality, which in turn, if everybody wants to go and live there, and the returns in hospitality are high, and companies are moving, so we need long-term rents, we need people to live, what does it mean? It means that it's a market that can give you more. People want to rent long-term, people want to relocate, and there is a lot of demand for tourism. How much demand? It's estimated that in the last 3 years, Cyprus needed about 15,000 new units to cover hospitality needs, which, by the way, it's growing at a rate of 8-9% per year, and we are expanding all of our airports by 40%. In this same period, only 3,000 new hotel units were built. Why? Because the building codes and regulations are in such a way that it's almost impossible to build new hotels. You don't have enough space. You need more land. What does that mean? It means that the short-term rental market, it's doomed to expand unless the government suddenly decides that, oh, you know what, we have a lot of money and we don't need it, which, let's be honest, is not going to happen. So what we saw in Paphos, I talked about it, a decrease in average age of buyers. People are moving in, so more people are relocating. The highest annual increase in residential property price index. Still limited supply. You will hear when you go there, we have issues with the licensing. It takes a long time to get a planning permit and you need to be thorough, yeah? So that creates issues with, in the supply and demand curve. And average daily rates, occupancy rates, the highest that there is in Cyprus, which in turn brought more investments like new universities, new investments in schools, etc., etc. So, very briefly, forecast for the next years. Our airport is expanding to support around 5 million passengers. Imagine that Paphos gets about 18 to 19 times its population in tourists every year. Times. So, we expect this to grow more. Thankfully, because of the landscape that I mentioned, it's in a way that you will go there, you will not feel that you're suffocating from tourism or that you are walking into a place that there is no history. On the contrary, Paphos has thousands of years of history, and because of the landscape, you don't feel that it's so many people, right? And we expect some changes such as potentially Cyprus joining Schengen and new big projects like the new Paphos Marina, which we'll see. It's a project that we've been discussing for many, many years, so we'll see, to basically increase demand even more. So, and Schengen that I mentioned, so I'm not gonna. So, in terms of our portfolio in a nutshell, we start from around 170K for studios all the way up to a few million for units. I told you range 3.5 thousand euro, so around 3.3 thousand pounds per square meter, all the way to four and a half, with the trend, in my humble opinion, being that within the next 2-3 years, you're gonna see an increase of at least 30%. This is my opinion. Maybe it's gonna be more, to be honest, but this is my opinion. Hopefully we'll see if I'm right. Basically, the idea now was to show you an example of an investment project, an example of a relocation project, and end it before I lose you and bore you. First of all, thank you very much for that nobody of you slept. It's the first time that I've spoken 15 minutes and nobody slept, so that's a new record for me. Okay, briefly, example of what we mean by townhouses, the locations, what you should expect near the sea, near the amenities, etc., etc., etc. But I don't want to waste your time with this. Let's go straight to this. This is a video that we created for what we call investment properties, like a category that is more investment related, where we have ready projects, under construction projects, or completely off plan. And remember what I told you, it's a risk-reward profile, right? The earlier in the project, the more the risk, the more the reward. If it's not like that, it doesn't make sense, right? And you shouldn't touch it. The other thing that I'm gonna explain now is about the VAT. So, you see, we say investment property starting from 150,000 plus VAT. VAT in Cyprus is 19% in general, and then there are exceptions. When you buy a property for you to use, you can get an approval for 5% VAT only, under specific requirements, which I'm not gonna go into details right now. When you want to offer something to rent, then you have to pay 19% VAT. The next question is that it? The answer is no. Basically, if you can show to the VAT authorities that the way that you use the property is subject to VAT, then by default, you can claim the VAT back, all of the 19%. Let me give you another example to understand it. I'm a developer. When I buy land, right, the cost of the VAT for me is refundable. It's not really a cost. If you buy land that is not what you do as a business, you cannot claim it back. I'm not gonna go, maybe Zacharias is gonna talk more about it, but the idea is the following. If you can show them that what you do is subject to VAT, you get all of the 19% back. What's the simplest way? Management company that already has a ruling from the VAT, meaning they have examined their case, they know it's okay, so you know you're gonna be okay. They submit the applications that they need and they do it. So you don't have to do it yourself. You are still a passive investor. The management company will do it for you. What is the time frame? The law says 6 months, but in practice, from personal experience, I will tell you, please assume 1 to 1.5 years after delivery. Do we have cases that were successful? Yes, many. Is it simple? The application, maybe it's not, but for you as a buyer, it will be. It's up to these guys to make it right. So with this in mind and thinking why investments in short-term rentals and what we call serviced apartments, service villas can give you back the VAT, and hoping that at least we have a basic understanding, let's continue with saying that we have options in apartments, townhouses, and villas, designed to maximize return. Don't forget, we are in hospitality. We manage more than 1,200 beds, so we know how to do it. In order to achieve a net ROI before tax of 7 to 8%, that's 7% in rental yield on top of the appreciation of 6-7% that I mentioned earlier. This is on top, because we were having a discussion earlier with one of you about the total. Is this, let's say, always? Of course not. It's always a risk reward. There are locations that are the last locations to drop where there is less risk, therefore you are expecting to see less capital appreciation, and others, like in every single real estate market in the world. Again, if it doesn't make sense, it's wrong. And to give you a specific example of a project, 3-bedroom villas near the sea, designed for short-term rentals. Small projects, you see like the area is getting developed, although at the same time the hotels in the area are 20, 30 years old. So there is a lot. This is one of the areas that you expect to see more capital appreciation. It's 2 minutes away from the new marina, for example. Just this will create a massive jump, but it's just an example. What is the idea? Maximize return per square meter. What does that mean? It means in hospitality, you care about how many people you're gonna sleep. In a 3-bedroom villa, you can sleep 6 to 8 people, right? So it means that we want to create a space that is such a way that will enable you with less investment to make more money, what we always want, right? So explain, as promising to you to explain where we do the base. Okay, prices are from 480,000 euro for a 3-bedroom villa with a private swimming pool, with a barbecue, with air conditioning, with the white goods, with a solar system, very important in Cyprus. Basically, you can rent this, energy is expensive because we are an isolated grid, we are an island, but at the same time, there are many ways to achieve net zero. Walking distance to all amenities. As I said, VAT might be claimed back, right? And in this specific project, ROIs that could achieve 7 to 8%. Like we said, I'm not gonna go through a lot of details on the project. You see 3 bedrooms. The idea is to maximize it, use a lot of glass. I know you can probably not read this very well, but I'm just gonna follow my thought process. How do you do it? You start from the hotels in the area, right? And you say, what is the average daily rate of the hotels in the area? In Kishon and Gaia, the average daily rate is around 160, 170 per year. In the summer is way more, in the winter is less. We come in, we take an assumption, we say, let's say 1.5 times that. So the same price that they do for 2 people, we will do for 6 to 8 people. So you have an ADR, an average daily rate of 220, about 40% cost, higher than the market standard to be conservative. I'm an engineer, I'm always conservative, right? And the occupancy rate growth. Of course, the model, it's more complex. We kept steady cost and income, and we are increasing occupancy rates. What you will realize that in Paphos, you have occupancy rates that typically are more than 70%. Why? Because the season is very large. Okay? So we start by 60, 65, and we increase it. People learn you have more reviews, you get more, you learn how to do your property management better, right? Driving costs down, but we decided to maintain cost in this model and income and just increase the occupancy rate. And what you will see basically is you can make 31 to 36K, this is just, numbers, which basically leads back to the yield that we talked about. And then as the last bit to show you something that is more like, let's call it for permanent living. We have a project in the center of town, in the middle of the largest urban park in Cyprus, okay? It's called Elements. It was designed to be our flagship project with a plethora of amenities that you are used to in London as well, like gym, 24-hour concierge, co-working spaces, business lounges, etc. Spoiler alert is also where I'm gonna stay in the last building when it's finished. That's how much we believe in the project. And this I'm gonna use it to use an example for what we offer for relocations. Does this make good yield in rental? Absolutely. Serviced apartments still claim the VAT back, still make the 7-8%. Why? It's unique. You cannot replicate it. You cannot have another project in the center, in the middle of a park, simply because there is no other park in the center of a town, walking distance to everything. So you can see, and I will stop here, the project with the amenities of the park, the court, etc. And then you see Paphos. An amphitheatrical area that from the top floor not even from the top, from the third floor of any building you see the sea, simply because of this, which is why we managed to maintain prices lower. So just to wrap it up, an example of a project, you see all of the amenities, 7 buildings, and basically a project that right now prices start from 235. We have 1 bed and 2 beds and 3 beds, communal swimming pool, gyms, lobby, fully concierge, co-working spaces, etc., with still the rental yield being there. Why did I show you? I just wanted to show like another example of something that we do. That will be the end. I don't want to waste any more of your time. I also don't, as I said, think that any of you is going to buy from a presentation. Our aim today is to try and show you that there is something out there, that there is something that it's worth your time to come and visit. We are salespeople. We are the worst people on earth after car mechanics. So don't trust us. Trust yourself. Trust your gut. Come, see it yourself. See if it makes sense to you. Ask the difficult questions, not what we want to show you. We want to show you only, rainbows. Ask the difficult questions and see, does this make sense to me? Is this where I see myself investing or living? If the answer is yes, we are here to help you. If the answer is no, just thank you for your time today. Thank you very much.